Hey, Andrew,
Hey, what's up, Riley?
do you want to start a podcast?
Yeah, sure. What do you think it should be about?
So I'm glad you asked, but I want to do a podcast where I don't know the name of it, but every time we record, we randomize what podcasting equipment we're using. So like the audio interface, our microphones, the cords, how close and far we are from the mic. I think it's some sort of very random podcast encounters.
So, okay, so I have two microphones currently. I have the one that I use right now, which is a Scarlett Studio mic. I have no idea what make or model or number it is. I also have a Blue Yeti that Sam uses for therapy. So you're saying that like before one thing starts, I flip a coin, and if it's tails, I go, okay, time to go get my Yeti microphone. Time to explain to Sam how to hook up this entire audio interface system. So that she can do like her job, and then I have to use the Yeti for that episode.
No, Andrew, you are looking at this too small-brained, and I need you to extend. You say that you only have two microphones, and that is a lie, because you also have a webcam that has a microphone built in. Your computer might have a built-in microphone itself. Your phone has a built-in microphone.
I have a work laptop that has a built-in. You know what? I have a PlayStation microphone that's in my desk drawer.
You have like 6 mics, and so you're rolling a much bigger dice. And not only that,
I have a phone.
Yep. And then what are you mounting that mic on? Is it on an arm? Is it on a little stand? Or
It's on a stand right now.
what if you were hand holding that? What if you were just sitting it down on the counter?
I don't know. What if I was hand holding? I don't think I can get it out of the stand without unplugging it, without making a very sonically unsound experience for our audience.
I'm now looking and seeing that my mic seems like it's not plugged in all the way, so I'm just going to push it in now. I'm really looking at it. But see, like you have so many options, and you have Audacity, you have a Reaper. Maybe you find a Mac and you use GarageBand. Maybe you put the audio together in Windows Movie Maker.
Fuck. I can't imagine editing a podcast in Windows Movie Maker.
And see, every week, the content does not matter. The content, it's just a weekly checkup. But the magic of it is, how is it going to sound this week? And it's like when you go to a bourbon tasting or a wine tasting or something like that, and you get to sample everything, and you go, oh, I understand what like earthy tones or like what a warm taste is now. And in this, you'll understand. Wow, a microphone that's on a stand is just the one that sounds good, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know what
excited. Y'all should I hope y'all are ready for an episode of Podcast Pitchers Pitch a Pod of Podcast Pitches, where I don't get to use a pop filter.
Oh, that's also interesting, because maybe we changed the pitch of how we are speaking.
Let's make it like an Alvin and the Chipmunks episode.
We're just putting different filters on it, and I'm like, what's a flanger do? And you're like, I don't know. And then we both put it on, and it's like, oh, I'm an Angels and Airwaves song now.
Riley's like, this episode's going to be really weird because I have to stand across the room from my microphone, and it's next to the heater. And I'm like, well, that's cool, because today you're getting bass boosted, Andrew.
You're getting bass. So I think this idea is great, but I do want to hear what you have.
The problem with your podcast pitch is that we can't live up to the podcaster promise, which is where you record 10 episodes, and in them you say, don't worry, guys, the audio is going to get better next week, because we can't promise that.
But that's actually the sign-off, right? That's actually the sign-off is, all right, and don't worry, guys, the audio will be better next week. You've actually I said you were thinking too small-brained, and now you have blown past me into a world where, I look out my window and the sky is Andrew's, because you've got that big of a brain.
Riley, I gotta say, you've created an affront before the Lord, which brings me to the next podcast pitch we have. Theogar Monkagoon sends it in and says, creating a new Sonic the Hedgehog characters based off a random word generator and writing their entire backstory in 20 minutes before sending it in an email to SEGA.
So random word. I guess do we want random word generator? Or we want a random animal generator.
Random animal. You get animal. I'll get a word.
All right. So I will have the species, and you will have the
name.
The name. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
right.
Today's this random word generator is not random. I can set word type. I can set first letter, last letter. Generate random word.
Do you want to pick a first level letter so we have alliteration?
Yes, let's do that.
All right.
What's our animal?
Our animal is, let me hit rerun. Our animal is Bop the Wombat.
All right. Let's talk about our new friend, Wetting the Wombat.
Wetting the Wombat.
Yeah.
Already great.
So Wetting the Wombat is a friend of Sonic's, I think. I think Wetting stands for love and unity and togetherness, and so they got to be on the good guy side.
And again, my favorite thing about wombats is I believe that their butt's so strong they can crush heads with it. So this
is a reverse Rouge the Bat situation.
Yeah, this is a reverse Rouge the Bat where you get kind of led in and you're like, oh, like I'm getting married. This is beautiful. I'm so excited. And then you show up one day and there's money missing off the dresser. Your TV is gone and your head has been crushed. And that's where Wetting the Wombat has shown in. Wetting the Wombat's got a little bow tie, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And a veil.
And a veil. Got both.
Yeah.
And has rings on every finger.
Yes, absolutely. The best thing, character trait about Wetting the Wombat, in my experience, they're late to everything. They never show up on time.
Yeah, Wetting the Wombat's always got a reason that the wedding should be delayed.
Yeah, always. Everyone's like, is Wedding here? And they're like, yeah, they'll be here later.
The venue burnt down. There was a murder. Global pandemic.
Maybe someday.
Wetting the Wombat is close friends with Fiance the Ferret.
Okay, I'm going to start writing up this email to SEGA. What other podcast should we start to do? I do want to say, I love the punishment at the end of the episode is that we have to email a company and say, hi-ho, we've come up with a new friend. Their name is Wetting. They're a wombat.
And we get an email back from SEGA's PR going, please lose this number. And we go, no. We will not.
It's a race to get a cease and desist.
Are they using the property for anything? No, they just won't stop emailing us. Oh, you don't want a cease and desist. You want a restraining order. SEGA has a restraining order against us.
You're right. That's more what I'm looking for.
What is a restraining order? But a cease and desist, but for interpersonal relationships. I have a suggestion here.
Hit me.
And it's called Spark Pods. And what we do is we provide Spark Notes for other podcasts.
Okay, so it's like, hey, y'all, I listened to this week's Reply All, so you didn't have to. This one was called Brian versus Brian, and in the episode, nothing happened. All right, next episode.
We do stuff like that. We like, this week on Waypoint Radio, they talked a lot about Blaseball, and they also mentioned some other games that I wasn't listening to, and there's some big Nintendo leak. All right, see you next time. Audio will be better next week.
I'm looking through my my podcast library today. I'm trying to think, what have I got? Hey, this week on Anime Sickos, we talked about wife guys again. It's a real good episode.
Was Wedding on there?
Yeah, wedding the wife guy wombat. On Champs in the Making this week, they were wrong about Pokemon yet again. I feel like the problem is that, like, what if our podcast is too long?
Well, here's the thing. We are going to be locked at 10 minutes.
Okay, so we can't get into a Who Spark Notes the Spark Noters situation?
Yep. It's kind of, we are there to, we each have to bring at least one podcast, and we have 10 minutes. And there's also a bit of a timer situation. So if, like, you're eating up more of the timer, I got to be like, Andrew, come on. Okay. Yeah.
So
I get it.
We got a podcast chess timer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, ooh, are we going back and forth? We each give a bullet point.
I think we each get 5 minutes total, or we each get 5 minutes each. And then whenever, while you're talking, the clock ticks down. And then if I want to interrupt, I slam the clock button and say, uh-huh. And then you have to hit it again and go, yeah. And then we did this.
That is interesting to me.
So I got a podcast. Here's an idea from Real Tirax. It says, a murder mystery podcast where one of the hosts is a murderer and the listeners have to figure out who.
I unironically love this idea.
I like this idea. The problem is that there's only 2 of us, and I don't want them to know my crimes.
And I get that, Andrew. I get that. And I, master fucking figure outer that I am, I think I could crack this code on which one of us is the murderer pretty quickly. But I think we have to continue swinging them left and right, you know? We have to, like, suddenly, like, we're podcasting and, like, I go, like, oh, no, and there's, like, a fumble, and you're like, what is it? I was like, nothing, and you're like, sound like something fell out of a closet, and I was like, no, nothing did.
I appreciate the world building you're going for. I need to turn this concept a little bit, though.
Uh-huh.
What if we took this concept and we listened to and we take this concept in addition to Sparkcast, and we just assume that every podcast is this premise?
Every podcast has a secret murderer on it.
Actually, you know what? Not to get dark, but, like, there's got to be famous podcasters who have murdered someone.
I mean, even if we're talking, even like if we're only talking direct murders, yes, absolutely. But like a podcast that has resulted in the death of somebody, I think that is almost positive. Serial exists, and that's probably ended up like getting people killed. So like, yeah,
yeah, like okay, so like a true crime one, it's kind of like okay, they interviewed a guy that said he's a murderer. That one's the secret murderer.
Yeah,
that
boom,
one's right
got
out.
It.
But this is secret. Like. We look at a podcast and we decide which McElroy is most likely to have murdered a man.
And the answer is Justin, right?
You think so?
I think so, and it's not out of like malpractice or like cruelty in his heart. I just think that like Justin knew something had to be done.
I don't know that I see that in Justin. I feel like most likely to have murdered a man is Travis.
That's true. Him out of cold blood. But again, yes. Justin is, I believe, the kind of person that you'd walk into the room and you'd explain a story and like some way where you were wrong terribly, and Justin would like comfort you and be like, it's okay. And he'd take the big brother role in this situation, and then you'd go to bed, and then late at night the door would open and it would close and Justin would leave. And then the next day he would roll back up at like 4 a.m. He'd get out of his car. He'd walk back into the house, and he'll like you wake up with like a hot chocolate next to your bed or something. And he wouldn't tell you anything, but you'd know that you weren't going to have any more problems with that person.
Jesus Christ.
I have another suggestion here.
Yeah, hit me with another suggestion.
Sorry, I keep laughing now. So, scattered broadcasts from a fantastical world, lore unveiled through snippets of sportscasts, pirate radio, rewatch shows, etc. This is a suggestion from @PirateCharm Tetra Saturn. It does read like a spindle wheel card, which I like about
does.
it. So, which I guess the spindle wheel card's the name of the episode. But I would love the idea of a Hello from the Magic Tavern, but it wasn't bad to listen to.
So it's we're telling the story of the magical world of I'm trying to think of what fictional universe I can pull upon from a show that I've watched. So this is Friends Away from the Table.
Yes.
We're talking about Hiron, but like not about anything that the characters are actually doing. This is an overheard conversation at the bar where someone's like, "Did you hear someone killed the king, which is fucked up because he's a ghost?"
That's like a really good idea, though, is just like like the fucking Star Wars Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, but it's just like Tales from Hiron, and it's just like just little bits of audio fiction, like 5 to 10 minutes long, where like it is just like you're in a location, a narrator has kind of walked you into what the setting is, and I guess that's us. We are there, and we're like, today we have a recording from, the last university, and we get a conversation between Benjamin and Blue Jay up in the top attic area or something. Like, that rules, unironically.
It's the actual play podcast equivalent of game jacking. Game jacking being the ARG term where you, like, if an ARG is running and you make a Twitter account and you're like, I'm involved in the game too, and I'm also leading the game. Now you should solve my puzzles. This is us being like, they played the D&D campaign. What if we were like, also, my wizard was there?
What if we game jacked Crit Roll? Who would stop us? Nobody can.
I'm sure there are lawyers.
Oh, yeah, we're not making money off it. Cool, I'm just doing it. This is fanfiction. Go, get out of here. And I go, and then Vax was shot with a cannon, and I have an arm cannon. Vax showed up, and he exploded instantly and said, wow, Riley's so cool.
So you're saying that we make our characters the Squirrel Girl of Crit Roll?
Yes, and we just slowly take it apart, and like they eventually fans of our podcast will be like, "Oh, this is where a Squirrel Andrew and Squirrel Riley fit in," and Matt Mercer will be like, "No, stop, don't, no, they are not involved," and all of our fans will be like, "No, but we know they are."
Yeah, we listened to their podcast, and the secret watcher over the universe said, "Wow, and Squirrel Andrew and Squirrel Riley really did just beat up Jester."
Yeah.
And took their money. So how come Matt Mercer's saying that Jester still has money? That's a plot hole. That's a continuity error. Shame on Matt Mercer.
Matt Mercer, you said on their podcast through a series of soundboards that Squirrel Andrew and Squirrel Riley just beat up Caleb so bad that
I don't know who any of these characters are. I'm just going off of Twitter.
Yeah, you're doing a good job. And we like play their theme, but like we're not having they can't send us cease and desist because we're not earning money off of it. We're just doing it. We're using their theme, we're using their art. They can't do anything to stop us.
Yeah, you can't do anything. Podcasts are a wild west, and we're gonna bring that crashing to a halt. Speaking of me not knowing,
we are the linchpin for the crackdown on podcasts.
Exactly. They're going to be like, these two nerds have gone too far. Crit Roll is going to destroy podcasting and the internet as we know it. Speaking of which, Martin writes in and says, a podcast where you try to explain the lore of video games you've never played before as gleaned from internet osmosis.
Okay, so let me tell you about Final Fantasy XIV.
Hit me.
So there's like a really kind of normal story that like you'd expect from a fantasy world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just kind of going through, oh, I'm the special chosen one and everyone loves me. And you're going through and then all of a sudden a dragon blows up the world and you wake back up and you're at the top of the story. But you know that the dragon reset the world. And then there are shadows that are brought. And I think that you're against the shadow. It's like also like Destiny a little bit, where there's a light and a dark, which also might just be basic storytelling.
Yeah, I think that's just the hero's journey.
Yeah, well, maybe they should stop using light and dark. Yeah, that's about all I got.
You're more right than you would know. Yeah, let me tell you about Destiny. In Destiny, you play as a guy that isn't a Halo, but feels very much like you're playing a Halo. And you run around and you shoot things and you do missions over and over and over again in order to get stuff and gear up your armor, because only people with cool armor are allowed to go fight the real bad guys, which is a giant moon, I think.
I believe that's true.
There may or may not be an egg involved. The moon might be an egg.
I believe you are more right than you think. So far, we're great at this.
Yeah, we're good at this. Perfect. Hell yeah. Join us next week where we do an 8-hour introspective on Kingdom Hearts.
Yep. Join us next week where we talk about the play Come From Away.
Fuck.
What if you know that
shit,
Patreon?
Destiny's not about 9/11, is it? Ah shit.
Beats.
Cut that joke.
What if next week? What if the next podcast that we do?
Yeah.
What if we sit down and have you ever seen that person who has a Patreon that will, like, if you pay $30 a month, they will start a discourse on Twitter about whatever you want?
I do know the person you're talking about. It's wild, and I want to live that life.
And so that is my suggestion. Let me bring back the title for the consideration of the Discourse Society.
Sure.
And we are starting that discourse. We have like a heated conversation every week. Every week we both storm out of the studio, grumpy and mad, but we're not really. It's bit, Andrew. We've tricked them. And every week there's a new podcasting fallout. We talk a lot about a drum. We become like the podcasting tabloids.
Okay, so you're saying that every week we go on and we go like, have you heard that Pokimane has a boyfriend? I'm mad on the internet.
And then we walk away, and the two of us then call each other later and go like, God, I hate nerds so much. They're garbage. Nerds are garbage, and the way they treat women is garbage. I hate them so much. But we've also made $1,000 on Patreon.
Okay, so we just have people write us in what they want us to do an episode about?
Yeah. Can maybe we're more discerning? Maybe we're like a targeted...
Hold on. Why are we doing the podcast minds for free? If you want to submit a suggestion for the podcast minds, it's going to cost $1.
Well, no, because
we're guaranteed to talk about it.
I'm not against that.
Here's our new patron tier.
Have 50 cents to paypal.me/RevRyeBread and send 50 cents to paypal.me/Andrew AC Sherman.
No, it's tied. No. You take the whole money. Just send me half.
All right. That's so much more frustrating, though.
I know, but I don't want to give up my Patreon. I feel weird giving up my PayPal to the internet.
Yeah, you're valid. That's fair. So we do that. That's for certainty. We will talk about it if you send us that. But also, we will take a 1% cut if you do any of the podcasts that we talk about.
It's up to 4% now.
It's up to 4%?
I've been increasing every episode that we've done.
Shit.
It doubles each time.
It doubles each time?
Yeah, people should have gotten on the train earlier. It's not my fault. Y'all are bad fans.
Should have signed up for a Patreon account. Oh, God. Andrew, you got another one?
I do. This is a podcast where we taste and review beers, etc., with the caveat being that our reviews cannot include any adjectives relating to the actual taste of the beverage.
So I drink a Daisy Cutter, which is a beer that I love deeply. And I go, you know what this reminds what this tastes like? This tastes like the song Night Shift by Lucy Dacus. And you go, that makes sense.
I'm not going to lie. That's about as approachable to me as any description of a beer's taste I've ever heard. People are like, yeah, this one's really robust and hoppy. And I'm like, yeah, those are words.
Hoppy means nothing to me, but like citrus is something that like I can like my brain hears and I engage with. You know what I mean?
Like, someone's like, this one tastes like citrus, and I go, great, and then I drink it, and I'm like, that did not taste like citrus.
You've been drinking bad. You gotta come when we can travel outside again in the next 5 years after the world has ended.
Yeah,
you can make the long journey by horseback to Chicago. I will take you to Dry Hop, and I will give you a nice, actually citrusy beer because they are fantastic there.
Okay.
They taste to me like an Arctic Monkeys album.
That actually means something to me more than any taste description I've ever heard about a beer before.
It tastes like Why Do You Only Call Me When You're High?
Okay. So Weevil Undertale sends in a 10 times Google translated arts and crafts tutorial.
So the concept of this is we do the podcast and then we put it through Google Translate 10 times and then we have to redub what comes out?
I think that what we do is I pick a tutorial and I tell you, hey, I need you to go get 8 cotton balls, 3 popsicle sticks, 2 pipe cleaners, and a set of googly eyes. And you go, great. And then I'm going to read you Google translated arts and crafts tutorials, where I read you each individual step as it went through a translator, and you have to do it. And then at the end of the episode, we post a picture of what you've made.
That sounds like it'd be a fun like decompression. You know what I mean? Because after a certain amount of Google Translate, there's no way to parse it, and you're just kind of going, but by the grace of God. And you're doing your best, and so like you're just kind of like following these directions clearly and just swinging at it.
I'm gonna Google arts and crafts tutorial right now. These are all YouTube.
Yep, that's gonna be the biggest problem. Twitch, your suggestion has got my brain moving in a different direction, which I think is interesting.
Okay.
Also, I have a great suggestion here that I'm going to read to you next. But the suggestion that I'm thinking is like, every week we get either an arts and crafts tutorial, or can I suggest to you a story at the beginning of a recipe? So you know how there's like, you get a recipe online and you open it up and the person is like, 3 weeks after my husband was murdered in uncertain circumstances, and we go, that's the secret
by Justin McElroy.
By Justin McElroy. Then they tell that long story. We read that, do a narrative reading of it, and then kind of decompress about what it means afterwards. And then next week we reread that same one, but we put it through Google Translate once, and we just keep doing that, and it keeps going until it has all become one word.
So here's a podcast. What if we just... So hold on. You do that till it becomes one word. You're saying that we keep doing it until eventually, eventually my chicken cacciatore recipe lead-in description just says writhe.
Yes. Your contractions shrink down. It goes from like, he would not stop to he wouldn't to him. And then eventually that becomes writhe.
Okay. See, when you were talking about the recipe descriptions, which I love personally, it's great to have to scroll through 18 different ads and a bunch of descriptions about how a child won't eat the chicken cacciatore that you normally cook for them on my phone. It's really great. I like the idea of, what if we just read these descriptions to each other without, and we cut out any description of what the actual recipe is.
Oh.
And we have to figure out what the recipe is for.
That's interesting. That's a fun little game show.
So
I'm ready.
Here we go. This is from a good website that just tells me the thing. Hold on. I don't want this from all recipes. Taste a home. Are you going to give me what I desire?
Oh, yeah. That's going to give you what you desire.
No, not taste a home. Where's like Angela's Kitchen? Shit, did they stop doing this when I wasn't looking? Did websites get good?
Our website's good. I feel like they're not. Oh my god, I'm looking at never mind. That is me just doing something different. While you're looking, Andrew, can I pitch you on a different podcast idea?
Hit me.
This one comes from @NotAnIn, my good friend Austin Ramsey. A re-listen podcast that re-listens to itself after the first episode. The first episode is an explanation of and musing of the nature of the podcast and its future.
I feel like we've done this one before.
Have we?
Which is a really meta thing.
Hi-ho?
It's similar to Caro's latest one, an unwatched podcast, like a rewatch podcast, but you scrape every record of the episode's existence from the internet as you go. So what if we just re-listen? Every episode is the only episode of the Podcast Minds to ever exist, and in each episode we talk about our previous episodes that no longer exist.
Oh, that's good. It's a real diamond listener idea. It is. You have to be there for it. You have to engage with it on the day, because if not, sorry FOMO, you just missed it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can always subscribe to our $100 patron tier, which is where we keep the actual records.
The archives.
The
And the archives only go back 5 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. So you gotta have been there. Actually, each $5 you give on Patreon each month gives you a new episode. $20 patrons get 4. $50 patrons get 10. You better get in on the ground early.
Yeah. Wait. Getting on the ground early implies that, like, so you could either give like $30 to get 6 episodes, or you can give $5 to get 1 episode. But then every month you're also like, it's increasing the backlog, so you have access to episodes. Like you go on episode 5, you start giving $5, and so then you get access to episode 4, and then episode 6 comes out, and you still have access to episode 4. So that way, like, your backlog is increasing with the number of $5 that you've given.
Yes.
I like this.
That math checks out.
Have the hardest thing about right now is that I just really want to talk to you about baseball.
Hi ho!
Hi ho! This is a good podcast. It's just